Hi everyone, welcome back again. Thanks for choosing to watch my second video. It is now day 10 of lockdown. I hope you're looking after yourself. Today is all about Google Sheets, which is kind of like Excel, but I think a little bit better. This video is really aimed at beginners and only really scratches the surface of what you could potentially do. I will take you through basic setup, show you some of the cool features that Google Sheets has to offer us, and then I finish off by showing you some of my favourite templates and make our teacher lives a little bit easier. Sheets is a brilliant tool for us to track and monitor our pupils' growth, as well as really helping us analyse the data that we're gathering. So if you have any sort of issues like monitoring pupils' progress, use Google Sheets. Planning a trip, Google Sheets. Collaborating with your colleagues on developing a timetable, Google Sheets. Rescheduling your whole wedding because of a pandemic, use Google Sheets. It will solve all your problems. Kind of. I promise, after using Google Sheets, you will love a spreadsheet. But please do remember to subscribe to my channel and please do comment below. I would really love to hear from you guys of what you would like to see next in my next tutorials. I hope you enjoy this video. All the best. So let's get started with making your sheet. There's a few ways that you can open up Google Sheets. You can either just search for it, just like normal as you would in Google, or you can go up to this little icon here, I call it the waffle, and if you open that up you can find your Sheets icon. Okay, so you can see here that we have a few different options. We've got templates already set up for us. I will go into these later in the video, but the first one that we're going to go for is just a blank. Okay, for those of you that have used spreadsheets before, this will be a common view for you, where you've got your different columns and rows set up already. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my titles for the top here of my data. Okay, so I've put these headings in the way that I would like them. I'm going to just select all of these boxes and I'm just going to press bold because I want to make it a little bit different. You'll notice this looks kind of strange here because what I have put in is too long for the box. So a way that you can sort this is if you go up to Format and go down to Text Wrapping, what you can do is text wrap, which means it sets it out in this kind of format. So it's really up to you as a preference. Some people prefer to just extend the column so that you can see the full title as well. So there's a few different options there. I'm just going to leave it like that. The next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to add filters. This is because obviously once I input all my data, I'm wanting to actually filter them out by different categories. So the way that we do that is I'm going to select all of these and then I'm going to go up to the little create filter tool. If I click that, now next to all the different headings you'll see these little icons next to the wording. If I click on that, it shows you the different filters that we could potentially use once we input some data. So you can get things to be sorted by alphabetical order, filtered by colour, the condition, the values. All of this will make a wee bit more sense once we've actually got in some data. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in this data now. Okay, and now we've got our data all in place. Now what you can notice is we have got some numbers and big gaps. An easy way just to clean that up a little bit is if I double click, it just moves everything over a little bit and just tidies it up. So I'm going to double click again. Now that everything's looking a little bit tidier, you will notice when you start scrolling, this is a lot of data. To make navigation a little bit easier, what I'm going to do is put a freeze on, which means the top headings will always move down as you're scrolling through the data. I've clicked on the outside of the data, which means it selects the whole row, so if I were to scroll along it takes it all the way to the end. And I'm going to go up to View. and looking for the freeze button. And I'm going to do it up to the current row, which is what I have clicked on. And now what you should be able to see is they have put a grey line underneath here, which means that that row has been frozen. So now when I scroll down, that will always remain at the top. Now that I've got all my data in place, I'm going to make sure that I name this spreadsheet. So I'm going to put in student data. Now I'm going to check where it is saved. At the minute it's just in my drive, but I want to make sure that it is in the correct folder. So you can just click this little icon and then you can decide which area you want to save it in. So I'm going to go into this YouTube resources and move here. So that means I know that it has been saved in the place that I want it and not just in my drive anywhere. I'm also going to name this sheet here because I'm going to be adding another sheet to it in a little while. So I'm going to rename this. Now I did promise you to spice up this spreadsheet, so another little tip you can do is so you can organise all the different sheets at the bottom if you have quite a lot of them. If you go to the little drop down arrow again, you can change the colour of it. So if I were to go for pink here, it changes the colour at the bottom there. A common problem that happens when you are importing data from other programs such as CMOS, you tend to find that the names come through as their first and last name all together as one unit. So a way to fix this, Google has put in a great little text splitter tool. So what I'm going to do is select the column and I'm going to go up to data and then I'm looking for split text to columns. Okay, so at the minute it is put it as detect automatically and it's not really detecting anything. So I am going to click on this and I want the names to be split by the space between them. And what that does is it splits our first and our last name. So I can change this. And now we have an extra column. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sort the spreadsheet out by surname in alphabetical order. So when we had put up our little filter earlier, I can now go up to this and we want to sort A to Z. So you can see that it has changed all our names and it has also changed the data. But you could use these filters for really anything. So if I, for example, just wanted to see pupils that were in the Clyde house, for example, let's go up to the filter. I am going to clear all under the values and I'm going to just click Clyde and press OK. So what that does now is it has filtered, still in alphabetical order, but it is filtered the pupils that are in the Clyde house. And if I wanted to go back and see them all again, I just go back into the filter tool, select all, and press OK. And that's me seeing them all again in alphabetical order. Another feature I'm going to show you is this Explore tool. The Explore tool appears in other apps such as Docs and Slides. It is probably one of my favourite features that Google has to offer, as it really can add another dimension to the kind of work that you're doing in that app. If I click on it, what we can actually do is ask Google to define some of our data. You can see that they have already suggested some things that we want to ask. I'm going to ask it for average lates per year group. And you can see that it has created a little pivot table. I am going to go to chart because I want to see which year group haven't been very good with their late coming. So I can see that S5 are not doing so well, but I'm going to insert this chart into my spreadsheet. And if I just close this down, if I click on the chart, I can resize it as well. I can also use this chart in other areas as well, such as slides. So if I was making a presentation, for example, I could download the chart or copy the chart into another file. But really, going into the Explore tool, again, just purely because I love it so much, there's so much information that you can get from this, and Google will do its best to understand what it is that you're looking for. So if you put in any sort of kind of question or comparison, it will try and find the best way of representing that information from your data. You will notice an additional sheet appeared. If I go into that, it shows you that Google automatically created some averages so that it could generate the chart that is put on the front page. So just so that you're aware of that you could then potentially go in and use that information. So if you hover over the heading here, you can see what the query was and where it gathered its information from. So it's pretty smart. I'm now going to add another sheet, and I'm going to call this one assessment data. And I'm going to bring in some data that I have gathered earlier, and I'm going to recolor this one as well. Let's go for a purple this time. And because I'm wanting my data at the beginning, I'm just going to click and drag this one to the end of my order just so that it's easier for me to flick between these. Okay, so back to my assessment data. I'm going to show you some very basic functions to pop into a spreadsheet. Most of you will probably know how to do this, but again, I don't know, maybe not. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to do a sum, do an average, and I'm also going to put in a trend as well. Okay, so there's two ways to do this. The first way, which is the one that I tend to always use if I know the formula, is if you press the equal sign, it automatically kind of understands what you might want to do. Google just being that one step ahead of us again. Or you could just type in the sum, but it already kind of understands that because it's in the sum column, I want to take a sum of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually click that. Then I press enter, and it automatically gives me the sum of spring, summer and autumn. If I want to continue this all the way down, all I need to do is click this little square in the corner here, click and drag, and that will apply the formula all the way down that column. A nice easy shortcut. Okay, the next one I'm going to do is the average. So I'm going to click again at my equals tool, and again it has already recognised that I would like the average. If, for example, you just wanted the average of spring and summer, what you could do is just delete the D2 value and then put C2 instead. So you could do that, but I'm quite happy with it, all of them. And again, I'm just going to click and drag. And now I have all my averages. So another way that you can insert formula is if you go up to insert and go down to function, and what you can see are tons and tons of different functions that you can put in. Most of them I have no idea what they are for, but I reckon they're useful for somebody somewhere. But you have all these different options if you so needed it. Most of the time, if I'm wanting to do something that I don't know what the formula actually is for, I do just tend to look it up on Google, and usually gives me the answer. In this one, however, I do know what the formula is. What I'd quite like is a tiny little graph in these boxes here to show me how a pupil has been performing and how they have been growing. So this is called a spark line. So now I need to enter where my data is coming from. So I'm going to click at the beginning, and I'm going to press the shift key because I'm wanting to select summer and autumn. I'm going to close the brackets and I'm going to press enter. So you can see that Jasmine Chung, whoever that might be, these are completely random names by the way, has been shown really good progress for her year. And again, I'm just going to click and drag, and we can see now how all our pupils have been performing. So looking at something like this, I would be able to look at, for example, Van Walker. I'd be maybe wondering why they have plateaued, maybe looking into what's been going on with them. So it could be a really good method to actually check in with your pupils and see why they're maybe not making the progress that you expected them to. I'm going to go into the Explore tool again, just to see what we could potentially use. So if I scroll down, Google has already started doing a little bit of analysis for us that could be quite useful. So already they're telling us who had the highest value in autumn and spring and summer, and we can go down and we can see all different types of graphs that we might find useful. So if I were to use this one, if I click and drag this over, close this down and move it over here, we now have a visual representation of how our pupils are doing, which again could be very, very useful to take into a presentation or a report, perhaps even a results analysis report. So what I have shown you today is a very, very basic setup of a spreadsheet. There is so much that you can do with sheets, and really this is just scratching the surface. Before you know it, if you get really into it, you start discovering all these different things that you can do, and really there is no limit to what you could potentially do. Most of the things that I have picked up working with sheets is actually by looking at the templates that Google offer and trying to understand how the formulas have been set up, how the layouts have been set up, and then just applying them to my own. I'm going to take you through some of my favourite templates that they've actually got. If I go back up to the Sheets home, as I mentioned before, we have our template gallery. So if I go into this, you can see there are lots and lots of different templates, from like personal to work to invoicing to project management. One of my favourite ones though, however, is in the education section, which is the grade book. The good thing about this is it's mostly all set up for you. You just need to adapt it to what you are looking for. So for example, on the front page, we've got our overview. We have our grading system, so you can manually go in and change what your cut-offs are for your different grades. It also gives you your kind of class distribution of how many people are sitting at A's, B's or C's, and also what the average scores are for each test or assignment. If I then go into the next page, which is grades, this is where you would input all your data, and you can go in and add in your own assignments or homeworks, and you would just need to change the student names. You can see that it's already set up to give you what an average for that homework was, what the percentage of the pupils sitting at, and what grade they fall into. However, my most favourite sheet is this one at the end. So what you can do with this one is you can individually select what student you want to look at their scores for. This I have found is really, really useful at parents' evenings. So you could sit out with a Chromebook during a parents' evening. Instead of showing all the other pupils on your class list, you can just select the performance of the student that you're talking about. It also gives you a very clear graph of how they are progressing as well, which is a great conversation point to bring up with parents or carers. So I would highly recommend this template. It works really, really well for myself. Another favourite of mine is the travel planner. So if you're involved in planning any trips, particularly residential trips, this is a great way of organising everything into the one place, and plus it looks pretty good as well. So you can enter in all your data if you were going on a flight with the flight number. You can even put in links to other documents such as PDFs of tickets or e-bookings. I recently used this particular template for a trip actually to New York with my school, and I had exported it as a PDF, so it meant that I could open it up in my Apple Books, making it really handy for me to look up where we were off to next, what kind of timings, just a really useful handy resource. But definitely have a look through the template gallery. There are brilliant resources in here that could really help you out and make your life that little bit easier. I hope you found this video interesting and useful for you in some sort of way. There's no shame in admitting that you love a spreadsheet now. Please remember to hit subscribe, and I will see you next week.